Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to AWS Women in Technology on deploying scalable application to Amazon EKS. I'm Jasmine Maheshwari. I'm solutions architect in digital native business here at AWS. And next to me is Netra. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi all, I'm Netra. I work as a database solution architect with AWS. I'm here with AWS for a couple of years now. Over to you, Jasmine.
Thanks, Netra. So without further ado, let us get started, right? And before we get started, let me set the agenda. So even before we get into deploying and scaling the applications in EKS, I think what is really important is why do we need containers, right? And why do we need Amazon EKS as well? Post that, we will cover EKS architecture and the demo on how to deploy and scale applications in EKS. Right. So let us get started with why do we need containers. So basically, consider a scenario where you have multiple microservices that you want to deploy on the same server, right? And imagine the challenges that would occur as part of that situation. Maybe the kind of resources that would compete with each other across the microservices, or the operating system requirements, or the library requirements, and even to further complicate basically the same library and different versions across the microservices. So all of that is quite tedious. It's not trivial job, and that's where containers are really help us. So how do containers help us? Basically, containers help us to package all the dependencies for a particular application inside one artifact, and that is how containers really help us. So now we've thought about why do we need containers, but imagine a scenario where you basically have multiple microservices, and every microservice has multiple containers. So how do we manage so many containers? The answer is an orchestration platform, something like ECS or Kubernetes, right? And that is now consider we have containers, we have the we have the Kubernetes, right? Now, why do we need Amazon EKS? First of all, what is Amazon EKS? So Amazon EKS is Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service, which is a managed Kubernetes service, and and which is a managed Kubernetes service where basically AWS takes care of managing the control plane for you. So as part of the responsibilities of EKS, right, it does integrate with IAM. It takes care of 24/7 operation and maintenance of control plane, and it is built according to AWS best practices. Also, if you've done your DIY Kubernetes cluster, you know how difficult or how tedious is the upgradation of the cluster, right? And that's also automated through Amazon EKS, and it also takes care of managed control plane scaling. So after I think, so a couple of things, if I really have to talk about your DIY Kubernetes cluster versus EKS, then in your control plane, if any of the node terminates or any of your control plane processes terminate, right, or the AZ is down, how do you make sure that 24/7 your control plane is available for the Kubernetes cluster? And that's where I think it's all of these really complex tasks are achieved by EKS. So with that, I think we are now clear, and I'm sure you must be quite keen to understand the EKS architecture, right? So let me request Netra to take us through the EKS architecture.
Thanks, Jasmine. So diving deep into EKS architecture, as you all know, EKS is a managed service that makes it easy for you to run Kubernetes on AWS without needing to install, operate, and maintain your own Kubernetes control plane or nodes. Like you see from this particular diagram that you'll be able to connect to Kubernetes tools like kubectl, using kubectl to Amazon EKS through an endpoint. And we have worker nodes and master nodes spread across multiple availability zones. Next slide, please. So diving deep into EKS architecture, you see that we have control plane and data plane. On control plane, we will have master node set up on on Amazon's VPC. With respect to the worker nodes will be set up in the customer VPC, and using EKS owned elastic network interface, which has been created in customer VPC, the communication happens between the customer VPC and the EKS VPC, which has been set up in Amazon VPC. Next slide, please. When we have to look into EKS control plane, we see that this particular EKS control plane is created in Amazon VPC, and you see that it is spread across 3 availability zones. It consists of etcd and which has its own auto-scaling group. We have API servers. Again, it is part of the auto-scaling group. A minimum of 2 API servers would be created in a control plane, and 3 etcd services will be created across 3 availability zones in a control plane, which makes it highly available. And this is a single tenant infrastructure that it provides when you create an EKS cluster. So Amazon EKS runs the Kubernetes control plane instances across multiple availability zones, as we saw that, to ensure high availability. If we have to do a deep dive into the components that constitute a master node, it consists of API server. The API server is a component of the Kubernetes control plane that exposes the Kubernetes API. The API server is the front end for Kubernetes control plane. So here you see that using kubectl, we will be able to connect to the Kubernetes API server. So that is the one which would allow the connections to come in. And other than this, we also have other components like etcd, which is a consistent and highly available key value store used as Kubernetes backing store for all the cluster data. Along with that, we have scheduler, which is present in the control plane that watches for the newly created pods which are not assigned to any node and selects a particular node on which the pods need to be running on. With that, we also have a controller manager. So this is a component of the control plane that runs controller processes. When I say controller processes, it includes node controller, replication controller, endpoint controller, service account and token controllers. All this would constitute Kubernetes control plane.
Netra, your voice is breaking. Can you once check?
Am I audible?
You are, but yeah, if you can be a little louder, I think that would help.
Sure. So as we saw in this particular, just to reiterate what I was trying to mention here, the Kubernetes control plane consists of API server. API server is a component that exposes the control plane to for the client connections to come in via the kubectl. And we also have scheduler. Scheduler is responsible for scheduling the pods, and then we also have control manager. The control manager that runs the controller processes. It includes node controller, application controller, endpoints controller, service account, and token controllers. Next, moving on to the Kubernetes data plane. So via the API server, there is a communication which has been established between the control plane and the worker node. and the API server of the control plane communicates with the kubelet that is being present in the worker node. We saw in the previous slide deck that the control plane would be present in the Amazon VPC, and the worker nodes will be present in the customer VPC. So components of the worker node, if we have to dive deep into it, it consists of kubelet. It's an agent. Kubelet is an agent that runs on each node in the cluster. It makes sure that the containers are running in a pod. We also have kubeproxy. Kubeproxy maintains the network node, rules on the nodes. And again, we have container runtime. Container runtime is a software that is responsible for running containers. kubedns service listens for service and endpoint events from the Kubernetes API. In this particular session, we will be diving deep into deploying applications on EKS, different scenarios. From the customer's view, if we have to look into it, when we go about creating an EKS cluster, first thing we do is we launch an EKS cluster. Behind the scene, we'll have to go about creating, we have to provision the worker nodes in our VPC, that is the customer VPC. On top of it, we will go about adding workloads or running the container services there, deploying our applications. But from the AWS perspective, if you see what is happening behind the scenes, when you initiate the creation of AWS EKS cluster, basically it would go about creating HA masters, it would create an HA etcd, it does an IAM integration, it creates a certificate via certificate management, it also creates auto scaling policies, it sets up a load balancer. Next, diving deep into EKS auto scaling. With respect to EKS auto scaling, we have two dimensions into it. First thing is about auto scaling EC2 instances in the Kubernetes cluster auto scaler, where it scales up the EC2 instances as per the requirement and the need. Second, we have HPA, which would go about performing a horizontal scaling of the pods. We'll do a deep dive as we go forward. Next slide, please. With horizontal pod autoscaler, here you see that we have deployed multiple pods and we have set up a metrics server API, which would actually track the metrics, resource utilization on the instances. From on the left side, you also see that there are some configurations which are associated with respect to the resource utilization, like the memory is 512 MB and CPU is 1. So all these are the configurations. So we would have set the threshold value with that metric server would monitor the resource utilization. Once the threshold is being exceeded, the horizontal pod autoscaler would go about creating additional pods so that the CPU utilization is well within the threshold and does not breach the threshold. So horizontally, it will go about creating multiple pods depending on the configurations that we have defined. There's an upper limit that we define for the maximum number of pods we create until we reach that particular limit. It will go about horizontally scaling the pods. Second, we have cluster autoscaler. Cluster autoscaler, it watches the status of the cluster and perform autoscaling on the cluster node. So here you see that multiple pods are installed within a node. That when I say node, it is an EC2 instance. So the scenarios where we see EC2 instances or nodes being scaled up is then we have pods which cannot be scheduled on a particular node due to lack of resources. When I say resources, maybe memory, CPU utilization could be very high on the particular instance. That's the reason it would want to go for auto scaling in EC2 instance. That is one scenario. Another scenario would include where the nodes are underutilized and we want important pods have to be rescheduled on a different EC2 instance. In such scenarios, the cluster autoscaler would go for auto scaling nodes. So next, we will go to a demo where we will show you how to autoscale using the horizontal pod autoscaler and cluster autoscaler. And Jasmine will show this demo for you. Jasmine, over to you.
Thanks, Netra. Before we proceed, please post your question in Q&A option, and we will be happy to take up those at the end of the session. Also, please take a poll and rate our session. Your feedback is super valuable for us. Yeah, and let us get started with the demo now. Let us now see how do we create a cluster through Amazon EKS. So we have EKS kernel create cluster -f EKS workshop.yaml. So in EKS kernel is basically one-step command which can be used to create a cluster. And here, basically, EKS kernel has been developed by, it is jointly developed by AWS and Weaveworks. And if you see, the simple one-step command can create the Kubernetes cluster for you as per the AWS best practices, right? It also follows the declarative way of doing it. I mean, in YAML, you basically declare your configurations, and EKS kernel takes care of creating the cluster as per the best practices. So now, if we look at the YAML file, the kind is cluster configuration, the name of the Kubernetes cluster that we want to specify, the region in which we need to deploy the Kubernetes cluster, the upstream Kubernetes version that we want to use, availability zones in which we want to deploy the Kubernetes cluster. So I've chosen all three. And as part of managed node group, basically I've chosen 3 as a desired capacity for managed node group. So in the interest of time, we won't be creating Kubernetes cluster here because it takes 10 to 15 minutes. I've already created one. So let me show you that. AWS EKS list clusters. And yeah, here it goes. So we have a cluster available. Now let's also take a look at how many nodes do we have. So yeah, we do have 3 nodes. So this is about the Kubernetes cluster. I think, yeah, if you know DIY Kubernetes cluster creation, you would feel I mean, the convenience of one-step command to deploy a Kubernetes cluster. Now we will deploy a sample application in this Kubernetes cluster so that I can show you how does horizontal pod autoscaling works. So I'll be using this HPA example image. And I would also be specifying the request CPU resource and expose it at the port 80. So let me create this deployment. So kubectl create deployment, PHP Apache, and the image. So this has basically created the deployment, created the service. Now, if the resources are also updated here. Right now, deployment and service, right? Let us talk about that a little bit. So deployment is the way you roll out, or you will specify the image, the resources that you need, the rollout strategy, right? And service is basically where you have one endpoint or the IP behind which multiple pods, set of pods do exist. So let me show you this. I mean, let's see if the deployment is created, right? Yes, so kubectl get deployment. I can see there is one deployment for PHP Apache. Then let's see the service as well. Do we have a service for this? Yes, and you can see the cluster IP associated with the multiple pods, which is exposed at port 80. Right, all the pods for that service are exposed at this particular IP. And let's see the number of pods. So we have one pod created for this deployment, right? So this is a very simple deployment, and as you see, it's the steps to deploy are also very simple, right? Now let us understand how do we scale this out, right? So for scaling out, as Netra mentioned, we need a metrics server. So metrics server captures the metrics at the pod level, may it be CPU metrics or the memory metrics or any custom metrics or a combination of metrics, right? All of that can be captured by metrics server. And then horizontal pod autoscaler utilizes the metrics from metrics server to understand if the threshold is reached. So these are the steps to install the metrics server. if you see, this is the GitHub link in Kubernetes 6, where metric server is available. You can download it, extract it, and again, in Kubernetes, everything is kubectl apply -f, right? And the name of the YAML file. So that's sorry, just a minute. Yeah, we were here where we were deploying the metric server. So basically now we have the metric server. In the interest of time, again, I have deployed the metric server. I've shown you the steps to do it, right? Now let us proceed and see that how can we create the, how can we associate the horizontal pod autoscaler with our deployment. Okay, so post we have metric server with us. Now let us move on to creating the HPA. Let us associate HPA with the deployment. So here you see the command is kubectl autoscale and the name of the deployment and the threshold of the CPU. So before that, we would just make sure that the metric server is available. So kubectl get deployment metric server, and let's see if we have metric server deployed. Yeah, so we do have it, right? And now let us associate HPA with the deployment, which is our PHP Apache deployment. So this is a command kubectl autoscale, deployment is PHP Apache, and at 10% of CPU threshold, I want to scale out the pods. So the reason I've taken 10% is only in the interest of time for this demo, but in your production environment, you can choose appropriate percent, maybe 60, 70, 80%, depending on your application need. And here I also mentioned the minimum number of pods and maximum number of pods that I want to scale out, right? We do not want to scale out to really big number. So let me run this and let us see if we associate HPA. So yeah, now HPA is associated with the deployment PHP Apache, right? So yeah, and now let us proceed with this, where we have basically the HPA associated. Let's see if we see kubectl get HPA. So we have a PHP Apache, right? And we see that target is 10%, minimum pods is 1, max pods is 10. So HPA is associated, right? Now, to see whether HPA is working fine, what we basically need here is we need to generate the load, right? And before that, let's just verify. So we have 1 pod at the moment for PHP Apache, right? Now we will try to generate the load for the service, and let's see if the pods are scaled out. So let me take this kubectl generator is equal to run pod, right? So here, what I'm doing is I'm just running 1 pod, and the image that I'm using is BusyBox. I'll be logging into the shell script of that image. And once I log in to the shell script of that container, I'll basically generate the load by hitting the HTTP PHP Apache microservice. So let us do that. Let us generate the load for PHP Apache, and then we can see if we are able to scale out. So this is, I've logged in to the shell script, and now let me generate the load. But before that, let me also show you the logs for the HPA to see whether the pods are scaling out. So we will see these logs in the we will see HPA in the watch mode. -W is basically about watch mode, right? Now let's generate the load. Okay, so the load has started, right? And now let us keep on looking at the HPA in watch mode, right? Whether the number of replicas are increased. So at the moment, the replica is 1, but we should see that to be increased, right? And the way it works is, right, a metric server has now captured the CPU metrics, and every 15 seconds, HPA contacts metric server, finds out if this is the threshold is reached. If the threshold is reached, it will basically scale out the pods. So at the moment, it is still, the replica is still 1. So let's wait and watch if we can, if the pods are scaling out. While this is happening, I think we can also talk a little bit about cluster autoscaler, right? So what happens in cluster autoscaler is, let us say when you have when the pods are scaling out and you hit the limit beyond which you cannot scale out your pods, that's where cluster autoscaler will come in play. Okay, I think back to logs where or HPA. So now if you see the replicas are 4 now, these are increasing. And as we have specified the max replica to be 10, it'll scale out till 10 replicas. So let's just wait and watch if it is increasing. So now it is 8. Is it hitting? Okay, yeah. So now we see that it has scaled out, the pods are scaled out to 10 pods, right? So basis the load. Now what we will probably just stop the load here and proceed to cluster autoscaler, right? So let me now walk you through the cluster autoscaler steps. So one good thing that you can also try out yourself is there is a portal that we have, which is eksworkshop.com. It is available to everybody. You can go there and follow the steps to create the cluster, to deploy and scale out the applications. So here basically I have, and there is cluster autoscaler YAML already. It exists in eksworkshop.com. You can use that. So I've applied this deployment, cluster autoscaler deployment. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is, depending on the Kubernetes version, I'll update the autoscaler version for that cluster autoscaler. So behind the scene, cluster autoscaler uses AWS autoscaling group to scale out. Okay, and that's where we are going to now associate the latest autoscaler, the autoscaler, appropriate autoscaler version with the cluster autoscaler. So that's what we've done in this stage. And now let us now deploy a very simple application where we can see the cluster autoscaler is scaling out the instances. So I've created nginx.yaml, right? Let me show you how does it look like. So this deployment will deploy nginx, and the name of the deployment is nginx to scale out. The kind is deployment, replica is 1, and the label is app nginx, and image that we're using is nginx. The resources are basically the request, and the limits are specified here. So let us now proceed and see how does cluster autoscaler work, right? So let me apply this nginx deployment, kubectl apply -f, and the deployment is applied. Let's see how many nodes exist at this point in time before we apply the cluster autoscaler, or before we scale out the replicas where cluster autoscaler would need to kick in. So we see that deployment does exist for nginx, and I'll also show you the number of pods. So we do have 1 pod for nginx, and many pods for PHP Apache, which we used in the HPA, horizontal pod autoscaler. So let us now try to look at the number of nodes as well, right? So the way we would scale out the replica here is basically kubectl scale replicas. I'm assigning it to 10 for Nginx deployment. Before that, the number of nodes are 3 at the moment, right? This will be useful when we see after scale out, our number of instances increased, right? So now let us scale out the replicas. So I'll scale out with kubectl scale replicas is 10 for Nginx deployment. And while doing that, we would also like to watch the logs, what's happening with the pods, our number of pods increasing. So I've started the scale out. Now we will see the pod in watch mode for the Nginx deployment. Yeah, so that is now we see that some of the pods are in pending state. So in cluster autoscaler, only when the pods are unscheduled, when there are no resources that Kubernetes can apply in terms of the number of available resources in terms of instances, EC2 instances, in that case, the pods would be unscheduled. And that's where cluster autoscaler understands that now it has to scale out the instances as well. So this is where the instance would be scaled out. And let us now see whether the instances are scaled out. So in logs, I'm just trying to find if we get that unscheduled message anywhere, though it's a little difficult to find it in the logs like this. So let me just probably look at the number of nodes. Yeah, and if you see now there is one more node. Earlier there were 3 nodes. Now there are 4 nodes. The node is not yet in ready state, but it will soon be, and then it will start serving the traffic. So it is still in not ready state. Yeah, but it'll scale. It'll soon be in ready state, and it'll start placing the Kubernetes or cluster autoscaler will start placing the pod in that instance. Yeah. Now, if you see, it is in ready state. So that is how it is with HPA and cluster autoscaler. Through this demo, you might have realized it's super easy to scale out the pods, to scale out the instances through Amazon EKS and through the Kubernetes cluster. So that is about it. I hope the session was useful in terms of understanding the ease of auto scaling in Kubernetes cluster through EKS. Now, I really want to request you, if you have any questions, please post it on Q&A. Also, take our poll and rate our session. Your feedback is very, very valuable. And also, there is a contest for our session. Please take that up. If you top the leaderboard, you will get awesome goodies. So, waiting for your questions. And if you have any questions, please post the questions to us and we will be happy to take that up. If not, please feel free to reach out to us offline. Right? You can reach out to us through the through the event portal, and let us know how do you find our session. Please rate our session. Take a poll. Thank you all.
Thank you.